sky's not blue.
Welcome back to the Cult House Podcast. I am your host, the Scholar of Spite and the Saturday Night Delight, Roger Riddell. Joining me today, he is a three-time Eisner-nominated comic creator, Kyle Starks. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah,
I
no,
need
I'm stoked.
a rhyming nomenclature to match yours.
And I'm stoked to have you on the show.
Thanks,
I've
man.
loved End of Life and Peacemaker Tries Hard, and uh, I know you've worked on a bunch of other stuff that I want to learn more about and that I need to check out at some point. So
Yeah,
yeah,
awesome. We love that.
yeah, no, I think just to start out, like the way that this whole thing kind of came about is at C2E2. One of my favorite things about just cons in general is going to like the publisher's official panels and stuff because I feel like then I hear about things that I'm not gonna, maybe stumble across in the wild. And it's like I'm happy that DC still does those because like Marvel didn't have an official panel at all at C2E2 this year. And like I don't every now and then I'll see like individual creators doing their own panels to promote like their indie books. Like I discovered Saladin Ahmed's and Dave Acosta's Terror War that way. But I don't know, it feels like the big publisher panels are just kind of like few and far between at some of the shows now.
Yeah, C2E2 specifically has gotten weird about that because all the publishers used to be there. Image used to be there. Oni used to be there. They'd have booths, and now there's no publishers with booths there. So I was honestly sort of surprised that they sent their sort of PR people at all to do anything. And I think they did a couple things. I'm not for sure what the other panels were, but I think they had maybe they were running like the Jason Aaron pair or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised. Um, I was a little miffed that three Vertigo creators were there, and no one thought maybe we should do a Vertigo panel too. But we tried to do that, and it's like, oh, it's too late. And I'm like, well, why should I even be the one who's suggesting that? Like, there's only four books, and three of the writers are here. But yeah, I thought it was cool too. They're always interesting for me because I feel very sort of fish out of water in those confines.
Yeah. I think that like kind of makes me want to check out like new creators even more though, because I think you get a slice of people's personalities in those panels and you're like, oh, I like this person. I want to see what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's what we hope for every time. Uh, when Chris Condon was there. Chris Condon has a Marvel exclusive. He's like, why would they let me do this? I have a Marvel exclusive, and I'm like, don't worry about it. You have a DC book. Calm down. And we were at New York Comic Con when they announced the Vertigo line, right? And it's James Tinian, it's Cy Spurrier, it's Brian Azzarello, it's Marika. It's like these like killers row. And I was like, I said to Schwartz, I'm like, or to Condon, I'm like, man, it's great to be the least famous person here. It's super great. But I feel like those are the opportunities where I have maybe some small advantage over some people because I think I'm very charismatic and I think that those things should not be boring. Like I think a panel should never ever be boring because we're there. What are you there for? Like it should be somewhat of a show. So the more bored or the more I think I'm unknown, sort of the louder and more obnoxious I'll be. Um, just because like that's all I have going for me in that situation. Because that panel specifically was correct me if I'm wrong. Jeff Loeb, Dennis Cowan, Jason Aaron, G. Willow Wilson. Is this right? Or am I? Because I might
I
be
think
mixing up
that
with Emerald
it was
City.
a different panel. It was the DC. It was the one where
So
they're
it's
talking
Jason
about
Aaron. No,
Summer of Supergirl.
uh,
And so it was
yes.
like they
So
talk
no,
about like the
Kyle.
absolute
So
line for a little
Kyle,
bit.
Kyle, Massiveverse Kyle, who Higgins was there.
Yeah.
All of the artists from Martian Manhunter, Absolute Martian Manhunter, the artists from Absolute, like a killer's row Was Jeff Loeb not at that one? Jeff Loeb was did
No,
not like
I
me.
think he was on a different. I know he was at the show, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he did not.
Yeah.
That was the Emerald City. So we did this, something very similar at Emerald City that honestly I don't think went quite as well, and I probably made more of a jackass of myself uh trying to have fun. You know what I mean? Like just trying to because like people are so can be so dry and very informative. It's like they're showing pictures. You don't have to. Uh, so yeah, it's just like these podcasts. It's the same thing. It's like why do you do so many podcasts? It's like well, if I come on these podcasts and I'm charming and affable, like someone might be like, oh, that guy seemed kind of funny. Maybe I'll check out his funny book. And that's what we hope is the case. And then I think I made pretty good books that are, I would say, almost famously underread. So we go where we can. We go where we can to spread the word, and that's those panels, anything. And I definitely been me a little in times that I shouldn't have been. Maybe if I'm bored, I think the people are bored. And who wants to go to a panel and be bored? Like, what a drag.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's always great to have like at least one person on the panel who's just keeping everyone else on their toes. Whether it's like on that panel, like, you were keeping everyone on their toes just talking about like end of life and like teasing big cock and like we'll get to that in a minute, but
Hmm.
it's kind of similar to like I went to New York Comic Con several years and every year that I went there, I always hit up the Spider-Man panel because I'm a big Spider-Man person. And this was back when Dan Slott was writing the book. And like even though he was like the main writer that was on that panel, he was also the person who was always keeping everyone else on their toes and just kind of like interjecting with like the crazy voices and shit, you know?
Yeah, I think that should be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you mentioned Jeff Loeb too, and like one of the coolest things that I've ever seen at a con was a signing that he did at C2E2 in 2011, back when I was in college. And he was with Marvel at that point, and he did a signing at their booth. And this guy who was in front of me had like a dolly cart with like two or
Long
three like long
boxes.
boxes of just like Hulk comics. And he was clearly like a vendor. And he gets up to Jeff, and Jeff is like, dude, like go to the back of the line because I want to like sign stuff for people that are actually here for me. And then if I have time, I'll sign some of your stuff. And like that always kind of sticks out to me, just being like really cool.
Yeah, I did a Wizard World New Orleans a million years ago, and for whatever reason they sat me next to Jim Palmiotti and Amanda Connors, and they had like a you know what I mean, like they had a tea or they had a whole corner,
Yeah.
and this dude rolled up with a wagon, and Jimmy's like he's like well we'll sign 10 of them. Like there's a sign, I think there's a sign that said we'll sign 10, and the guy goes well like, what am I supposed to do? And Jimmy said go back to the end of the line. Like he would have, I mean, he had the same thing, like, probably all Amanda Connor stuff too. But I was like, man, that's every time I see Jimmy, I'm like, that's still like the best thing I've ever seen. Just be like, wait, what should I do? And he's like, go to the end of the line. It's like, what then? Go back to the end of the line. Like, just keep going back to you get 10.
Yeah.
I love it. I do like this is unrelated, but I'm like I do like two free signatures. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
like, come back tomorrow. I won't remember you. Like I have a degree of face blindness. So like I promise you, like you can get two free every day. Like I'm not doing a two free a weekend. Like I won't know any better. Dude, like you get 10. Yeah, that wagon. No one wants to see the wagon, guys. You better bring money if you're going to do the wagon. If they would have said, hey, I'm going to give you $X hundred, Jeff Loeb would have been like, I'll sign. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
were giving you X thousand of dollars. You're like, then we'll meet at the hotel room later. You know, there's a million
Yeah.
ways to do that. That's not about you and your eBay sales.
Yeah, because I mean, like that, it's kind of like similar to the way that just like the autograph pricing at the shows has changed so much over the last decade. Where I can remember in 2016 when I met Carrie Fisher, her autograph was like $70. And I think around that time, Mark Hamill was also still doing $70. And then a year later, he's up to like $300. And I was like, man, why did it like jump that high? But then the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, oh, he's having to discourage people who are coming through his line wanting like a dozen things signed for eBay.
Yeah, and there's like a man. I again related, unrelated. I did the first year I did San Diego Comic Con was for my first Rick and Morty issue, and Mark hadn't. I don't know why he was there, but at some point he came onto the floor, and it literally caused like a scene, and he had like
Yeah.
six security guards circling him, which is also fucking crazy. I was like, guys, what are you doing? Like a fervor. But I think also, the market dictates what something's worth, and if you're if you're doing if you're Mark Hamill and like the line's the same no matter what you charge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're going to keep raising that price, and 70 seems like crazy to me. Probably in 2026 for someone to charge for an autograph, but I'm sure it's probably a reasonable price in 2026 now to get Patton Oswalt's autograph or whatever, and not Mark Hamill's. I'm sure Mark Hamill's is probably ridiculous. But it's just like
Yeah.
ours, like the same. Like I for years, like why would you do it? But if you're Mark Wade, who gets great royalties, like don't get me wrong, or you're Jeff Loeb, who I'm sure gets great royalties, but he can't draw a picture. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing, and it's like that's how you support them. Like it's that whatever that is, whatever that cost is, and it's like there's fair and there's not fair, and I think we're all always trying to figure out like what's the fair way to do it. Um, because we are there to make money. You know what I mean? We're there to meet fans and obviously to have engagement, but also to make money. So it's like, how do you do that? I can draw pictures, thankfully, but also it's like if you're bringing me a book like that I don't own, which we don't own any of those, right? Like Deathloop doesn't own Batman,
Yeah.
right? So if you bring him 200 Batmans, like what does he care? Like he's glad you have him, he's glad you like the stories, but it's like he doesn't have to be there. So it's a weird thing, and he's not with CSA, is he? He's with somebody, and that's a whole other thing too. You know what I mean? Because then you have to pay for them to handle you and to be out there, and he's an older guy, and it sucks. Like it's hard work. It's really a
Yeah.
lot more hard work than you think to be there all day and to kind of be on all day. Especially like, can you imagine what kind of dumb questions that guy gets? Like Jeff Loeb has to get like when you've been doing it that long, he's getting the dumbest questions. That every third person is asking him if like Batman can beat Spider Man. Like every third person, who would win in a fight? Hey Jeff Loeb, who would win in a fight between Batman and Spider Man?
Yeah.
And he's like, depends on who's paying me the check that week.
It depends on how strong Batman's plot armor is at any given time.
It's always the best. He never loses.
The perfect answer to that question that I always have is just that like you have to think of it from the standpoint that Batman is ultimately a middle-aged man who is really smart and has an animal gimmick and a bunch of gadgets. Most of Spider-Man's villains are middle-aged men who are really smart and have animal gimmicks and a bunch of gadgets. So Spider-Man is kind of like predisposed to fight Batman in a way.
Mm, no, Batman wins. Here's the answer to that people love to hate on Batman, and I think it's got to a weird place because like I'm 50 basically, and like we all accepted in the 90s. In the 90s, all of us accepted like, oh, he wins. Is that between the two? I can't believe we're having this conversation. This has nothing to do with End of Life or Wrestle Heist or Devil on My Shoulder. But here's what the thing is. I think it's easy to hate on the best, right? Like whatever it is, whomever it is, LeBron, MJ, name it. It's easy to hate on whoever's the best, but in the comparatively between the two universes, if you take the top five on each side, just whoever that is, the top five, not counting Batman, are
Yeah.
basically gods in DC. They're basically gods. They're unbeatable godlike machines, and Batman beats them all. He is in a world of gods. He is the human that has made himself the thing that can beat gods on the regular. And that's the thing about Batman is that there's so many different versions of them. All of them are cool. All of them are interesting. And that's his thing. He always wins. I remember like one of my friends like, who would win in a fight? And he's like he always wins. That's his power. Like if you want to know what his power is, he always wins. And it's like that's true. It's true. And we just accept it. He's smarter than everyone else, and he always figures it out. Like those are the two best powers you can have outside of invisibility and teleportation. But those are pervert powers too. So that's a completely different. That's a completely different goal. I love that argument. I was like the internet's been very bad to Batman, but he's still the best. He gets the best
Yeah.
writers. He gets the best artists. Like Batman's the best.
Like it's one of those things too where like I'm also like predisposed in DC books to be more of a Batman fan because like the first movie I ever saw in the theater was Batman 89.
Mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm,
that Batman and Spider-Man and then behind that the X-Men are like
mm-hmm.
basically the things that I grew up with because that was, what was huge at the time.
Yeah,
And so like on DC, like I think
dude. If you're
that
coming up in the '90s, if you're coming up
yeah,
in the '90s, nothing.
yeah,
Like I'll tell you, like one of my and I think it's clear. One of my greatest influences is DeMatteis and Giffen's Justice League. Um, I think it's one of the great, especially the first like 25. I think it's just it's unique in what it is. And it's a great superhero story that's funny. And I like there's people like, oh, who inspired you? Like, clearly Giffen did. Um, which it's funny because I don't think of him directly as an influence, but if you look at how we both work, it's very similar. Um, but I think like that was the only thing they had, in my opinion, at that time. Hitman, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
Vertigo, and like, but like if you were like a superhero guy, DC comics were bad all around, but Batman was still good because it's always been good. Even when it's bad, you're like, remember that one year? I'm like, there was four Batman titles, one of them was good. Like you cannot convince me one of those four Batman titles weren't good, or they're putting out some like Killing Joke or something. You know, they're putting out some
Yeah.
like all time canonical book. But yeah, the '90s were X-Men's always good. Spider-Man during that time was good. Um, when I started reading comics, I was such a little kid. This is also, I go, this probably had some influence on me. I had the most basic run. I had Spider-Man, I had Hulk, I had Justice League, and I had the X-Men. And I might be forgetting someone. We would get stuff off spinner racks at grocery stores then. So I remember getting like Blue Devil #1 and a bunch of weird stuff because you're on a spinner rack at a store. Like, who knows what they have? But when I was starting, is when Spider-Man was terrible. He was beating Firelord in fights. Like, it's a bad era. It's not interesting.
Yeah.
Hulk was in the Crossroads dimension. They were basically doing adult sci-fi horror things with him. Like, it was boring. Like, it was not for me, for a little kid. Justice League was Detroit. It was Justice League Detroit, and the X-Men were the X-Men. Is Byrne and Claremont. So like I've always like the X-Men were like my thing for the longest time, but it was the only good book that I was reading, really.
Yeah.
But like Justice League, my first Justice League team being that team has clearly colored me, and how X-Men are always sort of a bunch of like a ragtag group of, you know what I mean? Like they're not cool. They're not. I mean, they are, but they're kind of normal people, and they're all kind of doing the best they can, and they're outcasts. So like, it's always the type of thing that I gravitate towards, and my whole it's like, ooh, would you want to write Batman Kyle Starks? Like, not really. He's got his shit all together. Like I give me a weirdo. I want to give me Booster Gold. Give me Lobo. Give me Peacemaker. I want a weirdo. And hopefully that continues. Hopefully that continues until I am writing Batman and making millions of dollars, just a grotesque amount of money. That'll be great.
Yeah, because I mean, Batman's one of those things where it's like, I was never surprised that Tom King's run on Batman was as good as it was because it makes sense that an ex-CIA guy would write Batman and do it well, you know?
Yeah,
But like,
and that's a
yeah,
hot run too of Batman because that run it was like Snyder, Tinney, and him is like
yeah,
that Daredevil run where it was uh, I'm gonna blank Wade, Bendis, Brubaker, like just a crazy. It's the same. It's like what a crazy period of just excellent writers. Like they were hot, man. They were on top of it, and all of
yeah.
them, and all of them are hated. And now it's like, oh, that run wasn't so. It's like, dude, be an Iron Man fan for like 2 years and see how your life is. You know what I mean? Like, pick anyone else. Be a Thor. Thor's been pretty good for a while. Thor's not a good example. Because I mean,
Yeah, I think
Batman's
the
always he always gets.
Straczynski and like Aaron raised the bar on Thor. Like, I don't think
Yeah,
after
Thor's
those
going
two
pretty
you
good,
could, yeah,
and Ewing's doing it now, right? I think Ewing's doing it now.
I think so, yeah.
Pretty good, pretty good. Uh, and yeah, it's so it's like, man, be it. It's always when Batman fans are like, the Tom King run had problems. It's always good. It's always the best when it gets the best writers, and
Yeah.
not. I'm not trying to change it out, but when I think of like Vertigo, it was the same. Like the best writers were always at Vertigo, and they always had those beautiful painted books, like the art drawn in a really unique way. And it's like, man, and Vertigo, I mean, has had obviously misses throughout its career, but I always think of it as sort of being like Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, Animal Man. And it's like Peter Milligan on Three Things. It's like all those books were good. Like, what are we going to complain about? Like Shade the Changing Man. Uncle Sam was weird. It's like, yeah, of course it was weird. It was still good.
Yeah. Like
Like, what are we
Vertigo is
complaining
like
about?
I always associate Vertigo with like it's probably going to be something that could be way off the wall, but it's going to be in like the best way possible. Like one of my favorite um like just series of all time that's I guess in retrospect really self-contained is Transmetropolitan. And that's like
Yeah.
one of the big like Vertigos.
You know, what's funny is that we were talking about. I was doing a stream through my Patreon today, and why because I'm doing commissions, and so people watch me draw commissions. And we were talking like, man, people used to talk about Transmet all the time. It used to be one of those books that would sort of always come up eventually within like a week of comic conversations. And I know when it's often when I go, why don't people talk about like I know why people don't talk about Transmet today
Yeah.
because we certain people there's problems with certain people. Um, but like in the last like you know what I mean? Like it's just
Yeah.
crazy because
Which is a
that
shame
book
for
was
Derek
so
because Derek's a
popular.
really nice
Yeah, I
guy.
know. No, it was just such a popular book for so long. And one of my patrons said it's one of those books that's great when you're 20 that doesn't necessarily hold up when you're 40. And I don't know if that's true because I haven't read it in forever. And it wasn't for me when it came out, though it's the type of thing where I'd not say it's bad, like it's really good. It just wasn't for me per se. I was like, man, people used to talk about that book all the time. And that doesn't like since the writer had their issues. It had been a while before that since I'd heard people about Transmet. And I think like something I talk about a lot is like we used to talk about comics differently, and I think it's getting better today.
Yeah.
Where everyone's very critical, and it wasn't have you read this, have you read this, because have you read this, have you read this is like how we get excited about things. And Transmet used to be something that people would always recommend if you kind of like something a little bit edgy and a little silly, right? They'd say, "Oh, you should check this out." Zot, which is like I think just one of the greatest series of all time. We used to talk about Zot all the time. Mage by Matt Wagner. There used to be all these books that were sort of like, "Oh, you like this? You should check out this. Oh, you like this? You should check out this." And that word of mouth was great. Word of mouth in comics is huge, and it's just not what it used to be. When I started making comics, which was 2017, and Twitter was new, and a lot of us made our careers off of just being funny on the internet or being charming and interesting on the internet, and because we're also like, oh, did you know Punisher had a jet ski? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what if no one ever told you that Punisher had a jet ski? How worse would your life be? And it's like that's what's great about comics. And in the old and back in those days, if someone said, did you see the time the Punisher got jet ski? You're like, no, and then you'd have to go to the store and hope that they had it in the back. You have to go through the back issues. You have Punisher, whatever. Um, and I think that's all kind of remiss. Though I say that I think with like the Absolute line has brought in young people who are doing that. Um, so that's thrilling, especially someone like me who is not one of those many of these guys we mentioned. You know what I mean? And none of these guys mentioned. Because I think I make good books. I think I make different books, and I think I make books that new readers will enjoy because of the tone and the playfulness and how joyful they are. So I hope that's the case. But like Transmet, Zot, there used to be a bunch of them that would just you'd always you're like, oh, have you ever? If someone like funny books, I wish I like we don't think have you JLI, have you did you like do ZX run on the Avengers? There used to just be certain things that we would always be like, have you read this? It's really good. Uh, and it just feels like it's coming back, but it was gone for a long time. We were very critical about everything. Like nothing was good. And you know what? Look, maybe things weren't all good. But like, do you remember like when it was that same period, like 17, 18, 19, which is when Image put out in 3 years, it was like Southern Bastards, Sex Criminals, Saga. And
Yeah.
each year, everyone comics goes, "Have you read Southern Bastards? It's the best comic. It's the best comic that came out this year." Like as a group, we were like, "It's the best comic." Have you read Sex Criminals? It's the best comic that came out this year. Have you read Saga? And then something happened after that, where like no longer is there just no, we don't go books are good anymore. You know what I mean? Until I would say is as a group we go, Absolute Batman's really good. Like Absolute Batman's really good. Or you go, oh well, I like Absolute Wonder Woman better. It's like okay, well, yeah, no, Absolute Wonder Woman's really good too. So that's fair also. But no one's being like, well, though, like it's so different right now, which is great because I think that's how comics should be. Um, Especially in a comic universe where journalists don't ever go, I'm going to make up a hero. I'm going to make up a fake comic because I don't want to offend anyone. Did you read Super Peach #7? It sucked. Like it was really bad. I don't know we don't know. It doesn't make any sense who he's fighting. Like that, it doesn't exist anymore. No one's critical, right? Because no one wants to be critical, which means nothing's good. If nothing's bad, nothing's good. So I think it's great that right now, at least we're all going, wow, this stuff's great because it is. And then you go, well, if you like Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman, have you read Exquisite Corpses? Have you read End of Life? Have you read Wrestle Heist? Have you read Devil on My Shoulder? But I think there's more of that. You know what I mean? Because it's like there's stuff out there, but without us talking, even in the news cycle, even in our discords, it's like it's kind of an echo chamber, right? Like because as you said, like you hadn't heard of me. Why would you? Why would you? Why would
Yeah.
you? The only thing that the biggest book I've done is Peacemaker, which didn't sell very well. It just didn't. It is what it is. People thought it was a TV show. I don't know. And before that, I did a book called I Hate This Place, which did very well for me. But like compared, like number wise, compared to anything else, like any of these guys we've listed, like they would laugh at my numbers. They would be offended by my numbers, by my sales numbers. And so yeah, so like we do the podcast, we do the panels when we're invited. We love to be a jackass, but we're making good books. And it's like, well, how would anyone know? either a retailer has to tell you, they're busy, man. You know,
Yeah.
they're busy. Um, how are they going to? And like they have to. It has to be a store that has just decided they like me, because otherwise, why would they? I thought, like for example, I don't know what we were supposed to talk about in this podcast. I hope I'm not like derailing it so badly.
Oh no, not at
Is
all.
that is when I did Wrestle Heist, which just wrapped up. I had to think about it. Just wrapped up at Image, which sold. I mean, earnestly sold terrible. Um, I made less money in 2026 as a three-time Eisner nominee working for DC Vertigo than I did in 2017 as a complete unknown on an Image book. And of course, there's a 10-year window. Comics have changed. But I thought, oh, do a power bomb. Everyone loved like do a power bomb did great. People like wrestling comics. They're willing to admit they like wrestling comics. And what I've learned is that they like Daniel Warren Johnson a lot, which is fair. We all like Daniel Warren Johnson a lot. But I thought the stores would be like, oh, you picked up Do a Power Bomb. Have you heard about this book? That's what I thought would happen. And it just didn't, because who am I? And that's what we're working on. It's always we want more readers, because I think that now a 9-year career, I think I've made great books. I think I've been nominated for Eisner's 3 times. I should have been nominated more, and I say that humbly. I say it objectively. Uh, so yeah, so it's just weird. It's comics to comics, comics. I'm glad that we're talking about it. I think it's a very positive time for comics. I thought, and you've been going for C2E2 for years. I have too. This year felt like the first time in a long time it was a comic show again. Did you
Yeah.
get that feeling? It
Yeah.
felt like people wanted to talk about comics. They knew things about comics, and I for sure since the pandemic, it's the first time it felt like that to me.
Yeah. I feel like we've also reached this place too where like for years, if I wasn't going to cons and I was only going by what I saw on like social media, I would just think that like everyone hated everything that ever came out. But you go to a con and like just like
Yeah.
pulling this back to like a Spider-Man panel that I went to a few years ago, it's like you've got people who are talking amongst themselves about how much they like this thing that everyone was complaining about on the internet, or then you get someone who like comes up and they're like in the Q&A section of the panel like muttering through this whole thing of like why won't you let Spider-Man have the responsibility of being married and having a kid anymore? Why can't he grow up with me? And then you've got just like the kids behind me that I can hear going, "Oh God, one of these guys again." And it's just like
Hmm.
that kind of thing I think people are starting to discover again, that there was a whole period of time where I feel like the discourse on social media kind of dominated things over like what people were actually talking about in public or together, like in person, who were actually like reading books, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are that's what's like that's early social media had that.
Yeah.
But not any, and even now which is a completely different conversation. I think everyone sort of moved into private discords, and I'm in some private discords that still feel that way, where they go, "Look what just came out," and they go, "Oh, that's cool. I didn't know what's coming out." And they go, "Wow, that." They're like, "Oh, did you know?" Like it's that. It's like, "Oh, did you read? Did you see this?" I'm like, "No, I missed that. I don't know what that is." Like that's what the comics community used to be. And then for years it was just like everything's like whenever people are like Batman's really bad, and you're like, dude, you guys aren't going to be happy about fucking anything. Like there's if you think Batman's bad, it's still better than everything else. And you not everything else. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it is the Lakers of franchises. It's the Yankees. It always has the best players. Like it always has the best players. It's going to be just default better than more than half the things on the shelf, right? And again, go be a Hawkeye fan. You know what I mean? Go be a Hawkeye fan. See how that feels for 2 years. Um, so yeah, it's been bad, but I think it's very positive. I think it's because these manga kids, which is some presumption, but I think these kids who have aged out of sort of YA books and they got into manga, now they here's an opportunity to be a Batman fan from the beginning, right? I think it's like, wow, this is cool. This is cool. It's like, yeah, you have the same problem that we have. Like, we love these stories that are square boxes of pictures that are all lined up. It's the best somehow. Um, and now you get to do it without having to know 250 years of history, or what this reference is. Like, everyone gets that. Of course, like the gatekeeping is gone, and those kids, like, I remember doing New York Comic Con 3 years ago. I think that's right. Maybe it's 4 years ago, and there was no publishers there. Marvel had a booth with their only made. I mean, there was like Massive was there, like Vault made. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
no Marvel, no DC. Dark Horse, I think, sponsored the artists out. Like they weren't there, and Marvel had like just a movie booth. Like they had like costumes up, but there was a giant Viz, like a giant Viz booth. There was another Viz booth, which was like how to get manga for free booth, and in the middle there was this like 100-foot tall Cloud Luffy selling nothing. just Cloud Luffy. And I was like, man, like you go, why is Luffy a cloud? And like three people would be like, you don't know why he's a cloud? Like, listen to this is awesome. But if that was Sam Wilson, Captain America, and I went, why is Captain America black? I would get, oh, you don't fuck, you know what I mean? Like you don't know nothing. Like it's just it was a completely different environment. It's like what, like don't I don't know. Like is it that cool? Like tell me what's going on. Like I want to know what's going on. Like those mega kids are so enthusiastic about things that they love, and we were too for years. Uh, not everything was good. Like but the things that are good should be celebrated. And there's less than there's all these variables, right? There's fewer titles, I guess. Um, but it anyway, it's like we used to be really
Yeah.
excited about really good things as a community and want to share it, but now someone's always like kind of want to take a stab at everything. And I would say maybe there's fewer great books every year than there were, but there's more books, right? Like that's just gonna be the math of it. That things get underwhelmed, but again, that goes back. Like we're always trying to look for that word of mouth. I just think it's really important. But I thought it's like C2E2 feeling like a comic show made me feel great about the industry because I'm like, oh, we're not gonna die. Like people are liking me because those kids are gonna go just like we all started with Batman, Spider Man, right? This is again the Kyle Stark's hope. And so you read Batman Spider for a while, but then you're like, you know what else is there? And you're like, there's Transmet, there's Preacher, there's Why the Last Man. Depending on what area you're in right now, there's Bleeding Hearts, there's Brutal Dark, there's End of Life. There's these other things that are sort of reliably good books. And then you go to Image, and you're like, oh, Image has like a million things. And you're like, well, hold on. Someone said that this guy made a book for you do the thing, like you go through the
Yeah.
thing. It's like it's exciting because it's like, what is if these kids stick around? And the industry is doing so well right now. Well, certain titles are doing, which is all rising tides raise all ships or whatever. Um, like 5 years from now, will be really interesting.
It's really cool that like those like enthusiastic kids who are there now too are like hitting around like the ages where you go from following a title to being like, oh, I like this artist or this writer when they were on this book that I read all the time. What else have they done? And then they go and they check out that stuff too.
Yeah, as I get into movies or like music or anything, I know for me, and I think there's just different types of fandoms too. Because like I did a podcast with a guy, and he's like, I buy every Green Lantern comic whether I like it or not. And I was like, oh, that's not how I do it. I kind of only ingest things I like. Like I think that's more fun is that I'm like, oh, if I like this movie, I want to know what else the guy who wrote the movie, you know what I mean? Like I want more
Yeah.
things like I like this flavor. I like this flavor. And I'm always seeking flavors. And then occasionally someone comes along like Beneath the Trees, we'll just say Patrick Horvath or something like I like this flavor too. Like, well, there's nothing else like it really. You have to wait for more. I'm like, oh, but no, I now I want to see what that guy does next. Or that's that's how I like to do it. You know what I mean? That's why for me, I've always loved going I love Preacher and Why the Last Man. I think Preacher and Why Man are two of the best comics. I love a maxi series, and it's like I love Six Gun, I love Bone. For someone to be like, "Oh, have you read Lock and Key?" And of course I have. That's not the story. And you go, "Oh no, is that a maxi series too?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's a really good maxi series." Like that's a thrilling like moment in my life to be like, "Oh yeah, let me go read this other cool maxi series." Um, I mean, I don't know why this has became the word of mouth podcast, but I just think it's high time because you go through that phase. Eventually, you're reading Eight Ball. You know what I mean? At some point, you're
Yeah.
just reading like the most bizarre autobiographical comic you can. Just some guy who's just all he does is jerk off. That's all he does. That's all autobiographical comics in comics. Sorry, everyone, spoilers. Uh, like you go through the and like it's so fascinating to sort of see like it's resetting. You know, it's like it's a reset. Uh, just to see what titles are going to come out. I just think there's going to be some really interesting things that are going to be a reaction to these younger people, and I'm thrilled. I'm stoked about it. I think Dennis Camp
Yeah.
is the guy who's somehow just locked in on that demographic. I hate to say that, but he speaks to a certain group of people like quite clearly, and I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, no, it was speaking just of like that enthusiasm, like that whole like DC panel was just like it was packed to the point that people were sitting on the floor, which I
Mm-hmm.
think was also cool because that just like introduced that many more people to what is probably your next Eisner nominated series.
Let's hope. Oh my gosh, I should get best humor publication at least, right? At
It's
least.
the thing that I love about End of Life so far is that aside from like it being like it lives up to the pitch that you have of it being John Wick meets Northern Exposure, where it's like it is kind of like off the wall and like over the top, but it also has a heart. Like
Hmm.
it's grounded, but at the same time like both vulgar and whimsical. And it's cool that like all these different things can come together in a story that is, basically about a hitman who pisses off the cabal that he's a hitman for, and they all have an animal theme, and
Hmm.
he's now on the run from them.
Yeah. I do. I think as a creator, we're always trying to make the thing that we wish existed. And there's a certain type of story that I enjoy, and I like it when they have everything in it. Like I like it. I like my action movies when they're funny. Like I like that all the way through. I love an Arnold Schwarzenegger one liner, right? Like
Yeah.
it just I like it when they have everything. If you can give me a comedy that I cry at some point, that's the best movie I saw that year. And I think that's true. Is like our lives are full of everything, and I try to put. I want all of that in there. I want it to be funny. I love action movies. I want it to be violent. Um, and I like it when you feel something because we don't care about these people. If we don't feel for them in some way, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like it's just a visual display at that point. And that's kind of what I've always done. Um, in one way or another, it's why like they asked me to do Peacemaker because I'm very good at dummies. Like I'm very good at dummies trying to be better, and I'm
Yeah.
very good at over. I'm kind of like a Timu James Gunn. Like we love spectacle, we love the little guy, we love toxic masculinity, dummy trying to be better. We love violence, and we love for you to feel something at some point in time. Like we do very similar things. He's made more money than me. He's doing pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
But we're doing the best we can. But yeah, I mean, when we did so me and Steve, who did Peacemaker Tries Hard, which I believe is, I say again, humbly, I say earnestly, I think it's a classic.
Yeah.
I
Which
think
I've
that's a
got
book
that
that
here too.
I think that's a book that 10 years from now, people will be like, have you read Peacemaker? It's really good. Especially if someone's like, oh man, I like books that are funny. So that's the hope. I hope they do a compact comic. I'm pushing so hard for them to do a compact comic because I think it's perfect for that format. Um, I just think it's a timeless book, and because of that, when they were doing Vertigo, they were like, "Well, what teams do we like?" Because we want to make sure it's creator owned, so they keep doing it because they're ongoings. How do you get people to do an ongoing? They have to own it. They have like we just there's no reason for me to do. We'll say Peacemaker. I like Peacemaker for 50 issues. There's no
Yeah.
reason for me to do it unless I'm just in love with Peacemaker. It's just like that's not how. There's no the you know what I mean. There's that's just not. It doesn't make a lot of sense fiscally unless the book just becomes a huge thing. And then if you do huge things, you want to do other stuff, and it's blah 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 blah. So like, who are teams that we like? Well, they like 20th Century Men. So I mean, it doesn't. Okay, Tinian, right, right. Tinian has something to do with this. Um, and so they liked 20th Century Men. So it's Stephen and who's great, an unbelievably good artist, and Dennis Camp. Um, I think that Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips. I think they're just like Brubaker Phillips. I think they feel like the young version of those guys, which is unfair because Sean Phillips is Jacob Phillips' dad. But Condon is he has a lot of Brubaker. It's very writerly and it's smart, but it's still fun. And they like Peacemaker. Of course, they were our editors of Peacemaker, and they said, "Do you want to pitch?" And I was like, "Of course." They're like, "Well, we want like the most Kyle Starks book," and I'm like, "Here's what it is. It has all the things I want in it. I want it to be violent. I want it to be joyful. I want it to be fun. Um, we try not to say comedy a lot just because it's a bad word in comics because people I think have been given so many comics that they were told were going to be funny and they're not. Um, but so we're trying to, but it's like, look, I think it's funny. I think it's sometimes it's sad. I think it's heartwarming. It goes through all these things, and the funny stuff is funnier mixing with the other feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, Peacemaker made me laugh within like the first 3 pages. When you get to that
Power
interaction
cake,
between him and the cashier,
the chick,
and
right? Yeah,
yeah, with this poop
muscle
eating
cake.
motherfucker on the case, we should have peace any day now.
Mm-hmm. We love those guys. He's gonna make a muscle cake. Uh, Yeah, I do. I love that. I hope they do a comeback comic. I just think it's a time. I think it's a timeless book, and I think end of life. Like I think we're hitting the same points. I think we're hitting the same things that we want to do with that. And I think Peacemaker obviously is very humor forward, and I think end of life is too. I think just because Eddie's Eddie, like he's just such a dummy, and he's just always to me every situation's a situation for him to be. Richard Smiley's fun. They're all kind of funny, but I also think like if you look at all these people, I mean all of them, you'd be like, I don't know, that's kind of sad. Like that's kind of tragic. Like that's kind of unfortunate. And they're all kind of clearly living in these things, right? Like Eddie's situation isn't funny. It's awful. Like though his suffering is kind of funny because he kind of deserves it, right? But like
Yeah.
to go from literally having everything you'd want, whether it's not the things you should have, or you know what I mean, and whether or not those things were good, and whether or not those things were real, like he didn't know. He just knew he had a great life, and to have all that taken away, and then have to go from the fictitious big city, wherever that is in New York, right, to have to live literally in the middle of nowhere. That the only thing to do is to go to a gas station. If you want to do something, you go to the gas station. Like what a nightmare. No friends. His job, his
Yep.
career, which defined him, is gone. His dad's dying from cancer. Well, that sucks for his dad, right? I mean, his dad finally found joy in his life, and now it's all being taken away from him. So there are all these sort of, even Richard Smiley, who's like, who I love. Like I don't know why I was like the first villain is going to be a canceled cartoonist who turns to crime, but it's like what I wanted. I think it just made sense for the because I think because I was doing shows in Muncie, Indiana. Like I do these shows in Muncie, Indiana, which are really good 1 day shows, and that's where Garfield was created, or like right near where Garfield was created. And there was something about like, what if, what if this was taken away? You know, like what would this city be without Garfield? Which would be fine.
Yeah.
It was like even the city, like the city suffering, and Richard Smiley, who's the worst. But like even he's like everything was taken away from him, and he made a terrible choice, which I think he's proud of, which is sad. So the thing, like, it's funny, but also like look at all these people's lives. They're all pretty bad, but also somehow better because Eddie's there. Who's the worst? Who's the worst guy? He's just he's inconsiderate, and he's obnoxious, and he's stupid. He's only good at one thing. You know, he's only good at one thing, which is not useful in any real human scenario. It's great for end of life because that means he's always good at solving one problem. You know what I mean? Every issue. Uh, yeah, I love it. I just want to put everything in there, and I wanted to have, and you also have something that I, because it's supposed to be an ongoing. Whether it's going to be an ongoing or not is sales will decide, right? But we're doing 12 issues, but like I need to create an engine and a situation and a place and characters that I could tell 50 issues with. And I could do 50 easy. Um, I say I could do 24 easy. I could
Yeah.
do 32 pretty easy. I kind of like maybe the new universe maxi series of 36 issues would be great in 2026.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah, we put
I'm
all that stuff
three
in there.
issues in and I would read 50 of them, you know?
Thanks, man. That's very kind of you.
It's it's one of those things where like being from like a really small like kind of like borderline nowhere town, a lot of the characters like I'm kind of like I feel like I know a version of this person and I
Yeah,
think that increases the charm of it.
I think someone's always like, why did you pick like why is it in the middle of nowhere or whatever? And I'm like, it's all about familiarity. I think I could say the name. I'm not gonna say the name of the town because it seems rude, but I think everyone knows a town that's 35 minutes away that like 60 people live in. Like they have a school there. Somehow they have a school there, and you're like, what the like? There's like businesses, and like there's
Yeah.
only 60 people who live here. Like who's why are there so many antique stores? You know what I mean? Like I think everyone knows a place like that, and it's they're kind of magical. And I think like having that to be a setting for the story, and everyone always seems happy. And someone's like, "Oh, it's like Twin Peaks," and I'm like, "It's more like Andy Griffith, though." To me, it's more like Andy Griffith or Northern Exposure. Like Northern Exposure was a huge because I was watching it at the time, and I was like, you know, what if you put a real asshole in Northern Exposure rather than just this doctor that no one likes? Uh, and also, like we all love like when the city's a character too, which Pluto isn't. If it goes on long enough, like it very much will be. Like Pluto is a character in itself. Right now, it's just a very amusing location. But like all those people are interesting, and they all have a story. Like if we go on long enough, like everyone will get their story, and I hope I get to tell a lot of them. I know, like we're guaranteed 12 issues. We just wrapped up 10, and we might only do two more, right? And Steve Pugh was like, if we don't find out how Candles pays her rent before this is over, because it can't be the candles. Who has a candle store in the middle of nowhere? It doesn't make any sense. He's like, I'll be so upset. And I'm like, yeah, I would be too. So 11, we might find out how he calls her Candles, which is funny. Instead of like she doesn't have a name. That's what Eddie calls her though, because he doesn't know she has a name either. I think it's Emily.
Yeah.
Don't fact check me on that. Don't fact check me on that. But it's like so yeah. So everyone has a story, and I hope I get to tell them. And if not, it's a really good run. He just sent me art for issue 10. Unbelievable. It nailed it. He hit all the points. It's perfect. Uh, what a blessing to have that dude. He's so good.
And in issue 3. You
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
introduce the breakout
Breakout character
character of the
2020.
year,
Hmm, hmm. I hope
Big
so.
Cock.
We love him. We love Big Cock. We're like, if we can, if we're when we like issue three, hopefully is the one that people start talking about it, um, because it's just very much what we want to do with that comic, right? Is that it's funny and it's over the top, but that guy is a problem, and a huge problem for Eddie. But it's always a dumb, huge problem because the world's kind of dumb, and eventually someone's going to show up who's not dumb, and then
Right.
Eddie's going to be in huge trouble, right? Like then it's going to be he probably won't be because he's really good at one thing. But it'll be interesting to see that. Uh, yeah, Big Cock. I think it was one of the not the first thing. He was very early in the pitch, I think. And it's just like absurd and infantile enough that it's very funny. But also, it's like clearly there's something wrong with him, which, by the way, is
Yeah.
explained. And later on, you will actually find out more about Big Cock. Um, it's like here's this guy. He's like, oh, it's funny. Like he's clearly a like at one point in time, like he was a top menagerie guy. He's a beast, but he can only
Yeah.
say Big Cock. There's something wrong with him. Like again, it's funny, but it's kind of tragic and sad too.
See,
Like
that
it's
made the
kind of
whole thing
tragic and
even
sad.
better is that like
Yeah.
just off of the character design and like the explanation alone at the C2E2 panel, I was like, okay, I need to read this because I'm intrigued just by the pitch of this story and the whole premise of this hitman Big Cock.
Hmm, hmm.
And then like I actually get the issue and he's basically a Groot where he just says his name.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like,
There's something wrong with him. Well, hold
yeah.
on. Or
But
he's making a
he has
chicken
the same
noise.
he has the appeal of like a luchador in a suit, which I also
Sure.
love.
Yeah. He might be making a chicken noise. Those two words are very close to each other. So he could just be making a chicken noise, or he's saying his name. And you know what? I couldn't tell you which one it is. I couldn't tell you which one it is. You know what? Something like that book's been out for a little bit, and I thought someone for sure would comment on it because I think one of the bits that we did was very funny in that book. Is Big Cock? He obviously he also does not know what's going on, right? Like he's clearly kind of a child's mind in this monster killer's body, not unlike Eddie in many ways. Also, kind of a child's mind in this like really problematic killer. But when he's like, "Oh, you didn't know who I am," like you guys are looking for me. That's crazy. And he unlocks his phone. You know what I'm talking about? He unlocks his phone.
Yeah.
Like the code he puts in is cock. It's COCK. And I was like, someone's going to notice that and think it's really funny. And I don't think anyone noticed. And I was like, oh, guys, come on. Like, I'm working so hard over here. Nothing is accidental. Yeah, his code, even his phone code is whatever it's 332. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was another one of the things that I love though is that, like Big Cock really isn't there like looking for Eddie initially. Like he's just
No,
it's happenstance.
it's happenstance. And that's like, so you guys like, so inherently, what's the problem is in this town is that if you're looking at a long term story, like he can't be hidden forever, right? Like you just cannot be hidden forever. And like that to me is like how how long because once the menagerie finds where he is, it's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad because it's going to be everyone wants this money, and the ones who don't want the money, the boss, they just want to complete like everyone's going to show up in Pluto when they figure it out. But the thing is, stuff still has to happen until the dam breaks. So it's like, well, we want these crazy characters. Like I've also written the book in a way where I think you can jump in on any book, and I think that's important because when I think of an ongoing, and that's what they asked us to do. Like I think of like Grunwald's run on Captain America. Like you just picked it up, and either you probably knew it was going to happen. If you didn't, it said editorial note. Check out issue one, right? But most important, like you always know, here's Captain America, and what's he doing? He's fighting. He's fighting. Name. I don't know who he's fighting. He's fighting Red Skull. Why? Because Red Skull's a Nazi. Okay, that's it. And we're kind of doing the same way. So I'm kind of doing like Buffy the Vampire style, where it's like there's a monster of the week, but there's an ongoing arc, right? So issue two is the Murder Brothers, issue three is Big Cock, but it's kind of turning into the Richard Smiley problem too, right? Like Richard Smiley is the big boss for whatever this arc is that we're not doing arcs really because it's an ongoing book. So I want to do it so you kind of jump in and know what's going on. So you have to have an adversary. Next month, there has to be someone else. And it's too early for the menagerie to know where he is. In fact, uh, I don't know what just came out. Did four just come out? Drathar shows up at the end, right?
I think
At the end of
is
three?
four this week.
Probably. And I haven't got
Okay.
my comps. That's how I can tell. I think it's Drathar shows up at the end of three. And
Yeah.
Drathar is the best tracker the menagerie has. Well, it's like if Drathar shows up as a reader, you go, oh shit, like it's over. Like he's there, like he's found them, but he finds George. He doesn't find Eddie. He finds George. And so now we have this thing where George said, I will allow you to be here till you get your shit together. I will not defend you. I will not look out for you. Um, now the menagerie is here. Like, what is George going to do? I think the next issue, I think Big Cock issue is hilarious and great, and it kind of says what we want this series to be, which is fun and over the top. But the next issue, I love it because we get like we find out a really great flashback from George. This really great engagement where you really find out that of all the dangerous people that show up in this town, you find out next issue who the real most dangerous person is, and it is George. George is the baddest guy, and he's dying. Like that's the tragedy is at one point in time he's the baddest man on earth, and now he's literally just shrinking and dying. Is he going to defend Eddie? Like because Eddie's kind of shown like Eddie's nice to Leona and Trent. You know what I mean? The people in
Yeah.
town are like Candle shows up and is like, oh he's been looking out for us, and it's like really like he has like that's crazy. And then he finds out, like he went and got rid of this guy at the diner. Like he starts to hear things. So it's like, who is he going to defend or is he going to sell him out? Well, I'll spoilers. He's not going to. But the next issue is cool. And the real cool George issue. A lot of cool Richard Smiley stuff. Richard Smiley's so unlikable, and every time Steve Pugh draws his face, it's the most. Every time is somehow more unlikable than the time before, which is unbelievable. He's always wearing Cosby sweaters. It's like, come on, man! Like it's 2026. You can't be wearing. What an unlikable dude. Next issue is really good. So that's the thing. So it's like, when will the dam break? And until the dam breaks, people have to keep showing up. And it's like we have to walk that line. So Big Cock showing up. If he was looking for him, well, it's the end of the road, right? Like, why would you not be like, I found him? Or you go, I'm going to go check out Pluto. Like, they know where you're going. Someone does, presumably, right? Though he was on vacation. Clearly, he's just going to go to a theme park. So not Big Cock, but like Drathar showing up. That's problems. Like, how do you solve these problems? And I think that's really interesting. And I think again, that's what keeps the story going. Because once Raven finds out, once anyone goes, I know where he is, it's the book is going to go like a very bad direction because it's going to be hell comes to Frogtown. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's going to be dozens and dozens of people coming to kill this one guy. But he's only good at one thing, man. Like it's going to be a fight, and I would love for that to be issue 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd like it to be 20 when Eddie has to leave Pluto. And does he come back? Probably. Who fucking knows? Like that's down the road. I don't want it to be 12. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be 12 when it's like it's over in some way or another. And but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where like I hope it goes on for a while just because I'm really enjoying what I've read so far. And to your point too, like it does feel very episodic. And I
Mhm.
think that's another thing that's just kind of like coming back to comics in general now, where I think for a while it felt like you couldn't just jump in anywhere because you might be jumping into the middle of something that's being written specifically for a trade
An
down the
arc.
road.
Yep. Hmm.
But now it feels like with this and with a lot of other titles like
Absolute stuff. The absolute
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, the
100%. Yeah.
absolute stuff, the Fraction Batman, current Superman feels that way where like I can jump into a Superman comic right now and I don't feel like I'm lost.
Yeah. I read Condon's Green Arrow, and I feel like he did the same thing where it's like there would be two parters, and there was kind of a boss. There was an overarching mystery or whatever, but you didn't. There's something nice about that is to go. Listen. I'm a movie guy. I'm not a TV guy. So if you give me a trade that's one full story, I like that better than reading six single stories. Right? That's just me.
Yeah.
That's just me. And there by that preference, like end of life is me doing something completely different that I'm not super comfortable with. Because in theory, it's going to go on forever. And the books that I loved, they didn't have four issue. Sometimes they did, you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
like Greenwald has it's broken up, but at some point it's like, well, that's just 13 issues. Like it's not 12 issues, it's 13 issues. Well, that 13th issue, you can never do anything with that. It's like, well, that's just how long it took to tell that story. And it's like there's something really nice about that. Um, and in some ways, it's antithetical to trade waiting. So like that's kind of nice too, right? Like you could trade weight, but there's no benefit to it. You're not going to get necessarily like a tight full story though. Kind of, you know, kind of.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's
six
like
issues. We're
earlier
doing
you
six
you
issue
mentioned like
trades.
the Claremont and Byrne X-Men, and it's like that was one of those things where like, yeah, you have occasionally these longer stories like Dark Phoenix, but for the most part, you've got like one and two, maybe three-part
Maybe
stories,
three.
and
Like,
there's an overarching kind of like story that's building, but it's more just like plot threads that are being laid as opposed to just
yeah,
like hitting you over the head with like, here's this big story.
yeah. Or here's this three-part story for these six issues. I think that Wolverine Hellion story, which to me was like that was the moment the X Men became sort of the like that was the back issue we were all looking for. I think
Yeah.
that's three issues. It's either two issues or it's three issues. If it's two issues, like just think about they had more pages, but just think about the storytelling of it. It's only two pages. Someone's gonna be like it's five. Like, I don't know. It's been a long time, but I think it's three issues, and that
Yeah.
does include that probably four issues before. Whenever they showed like one panel of like shadowy people in a really nice room talk like what is Xavier up to now with his students? It's like, well, here at the club, we don't worry about that. You know, there's like one panel that sets it up that, oh, there's other characters, which is what I kind of love about all those old books. Those old is like, you would just have a setup panel like, who the fuck was that? Like, who the fuck Clawed Hand was that? It's like, you'll find out in four issues. Just stick around if you want to see what Claw Hand was. Um, and we're kind of doing that too with like the towns. I'm kind of doing that too with the townsfolk and even like the guys that you do see, like Raven will obviously come back. His guards will come back because they say if they say their name, they're definitely coming back, right?
Yeah.
Um, Kind of trying to do the same thing, but I think, yeah, like we're not like you could trade weight, but you're not going. It's not going to be any more rewarding than reading it monthly, which I think is what you want, right? Like you want to reward people with reading monthly with and not with variant covers. I think like this is a story that is just fun, and there's no reason to wait. Like you might as well pick it up because it's not necessary. It's kind of meandering, though it's not meandering. It has a goal. I know when they first talked about Vertigo, they said what we one of the ideas they threw out, which I thought was great. Um, though I think they someone at some point in DC said we'd probably lose money if we did that, and they go, okay, we won't do that anymore. But they had thrown out the idea of waiting for 12 issues because we're doing 12 issues and then putting a book out. And I'm like, I love that because it's going to be in Barnes and Nobles. It's going to be a thick book. It's going to say Vertigo. It's going to say End of Life. It's going to be like, I love that. And it gives people like, you can wait 6 months. You can wait 4 months. But waiting a year on trades, if people are talking about something, which is always the hope, that's crazy. You're a crazy person. Go buy the issues. Go buy the issues. And of course, they decide not to do that. But I think that would have been cool. I think that would have been pretty
Yeah. I
cool.
mean, like, because I think too, especially if you're writing it in sort of an episodic format, you're basically building more of hopefully like a potential for it to become appointment reading for people every month,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
a thing that they can't wait to like get home to read as soon as they come back from the shop.
Yeah, that's what we hope. And it's also like it's of a 4 week month, they set it so week one is Nice House, then Bleeding Hearts, then me, then Brutal Dark. So week three is is End of Life, which I think maybe people always known that. Like, oh, if you're a Spider-Man guy, you said earlier, like maybe you always knew like it comes out on the second Tuesday. I never knew. They just showed up every month. Like comics just showed up. And as long as they showed up in that 30-day window, like we're all fine.
Yeah.
I've never known. So I like that there's sort of like a set schedule for them. I think that's really they're DC's smart right now, man. Like they make really good decisions. They're thinking things out in an interesting way. I do wish there's some things they did a little bit different. Like I said, I think that book, you do hardcover, like you just do hardcover at the end of a year, like that's awesome. And if we're only doing 12 issues, then it collects the whole run, which I think is great. And it'll sell at bookstores, which comics don't do anymore, right?
Yeah.
So there's these all these benefits in my head that make sense. Um uh and some other stuff. But overall, like they're smart, man. They know what they're doing right now. They're putting out the best books.
Yeah. I mean, I have
So
right now, I
they can do what
probably
they
have
want.
the most DC books on my pull list that I've had probably ever. And a
I
lot of it
believe
is
it. I
because
think
of that.
it's they're just the hot like there have been periods where they've been better,
Yeah.
very small periods in my history that they were beating Marvel. Marvel always comes back around with something big. It's like DC is kind of doing the Marvel thing right now. Like it's kind of tough to see today how Marvel gets their spot back. Because to me, Marvel's always been number one. There's been periods, right? The DC's killing it right now. They're letting creators do what they want to do. Like they're letting the people who make good books, and they're putting them out there. And because the absolute stuff's doing so, I know the absolute stuff's doing so well that everything else is kind of suffering. But if you're like, oh, I read Absolute Batman, if you're more likely going to be a DC book just
Yeah.
by the nature of you like, well, I know these guys are making good books right now, so I don't know. We'll check out Bleeding Hearts or Absolute Martian Manhunter. Like Absolute Batman did so well that people checked out Absolute Martian Manhunter and liked it because that's the secret, right? 10 years ago, no one would have bought that book. 10 years ago, no one would have liked that book. Like it's just the way it is. They would like the art's too weird, it's too esoteric, and like there's just something like DC is doing so good. You're like, I'm gonna try this. And because there are these kids who are coming from manga for the most part, they're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Like this is exactly what we like, which is
Yeah.
great. I think Dennis is such a nice guy and he's so talented. But it's like, man, he came around. He's at the exact right spot in history for him to be successful in this industry. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
crazy.
I think
DC's
like
great. I hope
if that book had been like 10 or 15 years ago, I would probably have the same reaction to it that I did when I was in college and tried to read Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum for the first time. And I can't remember off the top of my head who did the art on that, but I remember it's not
it's
like,
like painted. It's
yeah,
like
it's painted and
it's not Bill Sienkiewicz,
it's not
but it's
the
like Bill
first
Sienkiewicz.
Batman like graphic novel that you should read. And I always
No,
tell people that when they ask me about it, I'm like, if you haven't read any other Batman stuff, don't start with that one.
It's Dave McKean. Dave McKean who did all those awesome Sandman covers and whatnot too. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's tough to follow. This is a whole other different conversation, which is why like I'm so stoked about the absolute stuff because in comic, like, listen, 2 years ago, comics were in trouble. I say that like I know the sales numbers. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
sales were dropping. We weren't getting new readers. There's also the thing is like if someone's like, hey, what if someone went, you go, what's the best movie of all time? And you go, oh, it's Godfather. You know, let's say which I don't necessarily agree with, but if there's 8 people in a room, 6 people will be like, oh, it's Godfather. Let's just say, right? If you go and watch Godfather, you'll be like, that's pretty good, right? Unless you're like, I don't know, a little violent for me. I don't know. Almost any, there's a bunch of them. But if for comics, it would be Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns. We'll say All Star Superman because it's doing so well since the movie, right? Those are advanced reading.
Yeah.
Like those aren't going to be fun. So like Absolute Batman's great. That's a great place to start reading comics. I'd be Ultimate Spider-Man, like Bendis's Ultimate Spider. Like that's a great place to start reading comic books. It's fun. It'll too. And then when you're like, I'd like a little bit more, then let's talk about Grant Morrison. Let's talk about maybe you're ready for Alan Moore because he has some fun stuff. But it's like, man, there's gatekeeping just in trying to enjoy it. Also, that is kind of the best comic books. Like once you read them, it's all downhill after those in many ways. Especially if you're getting all the minutia and if you're really
Yeah.
getting all of it. Like, well, so it's like that's what's great. Like it's not like movies. It's not like movies where it's like the best thing's probably pretty enjoyable. I mean, if someone's like, you should check out this French director from 1964, you'll be like, well, that wasn't for me. Probably a lot of people will be like, well, that wasn't for me. It's like, yeah, well, we're talking about comic books. So if you don't want to see someone punch in the face and doing something stupid, it's kind of high art for a form of that. Uh, so it's great. Like that could be like, have you read Absolute Batman, which you can read if you read Absolute Wonder Woman, and people are going to expand because that's just what we do. I don't know why I'm fixated on it. I haven't talked to him about comics in weeks, probably, and like these are the
I do think that
conversations.
it's interesting that like the absolute line too. One of the things that really jumps out to me about it is that the like on Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, like those three, like I guess Trinity, titles.
Mhm.
Um, the art style also feels very much like the 90s when things were like really fun and like maybe design like wasn't taken as serious and it didn't have to be like super anatomical, like
Yeah,
all the anatomy stuff that people rag on people like Rob Liefeld for instance, like
we loved it.
Absolute
We
Batman
loved
is
it.
like
We
crazy
loved it
big
then,
too.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love that shit. It's interesting. It is interesting because Martian Manhunter is like there's such disparate aesthetics that again, 10 years ago, people have been mad at. There's this thing in the direct market, and I can attest to it because people don't like it when I draw my own comics because they don't look like them. Where it's like the closer you are to Jim Lee, the better. If everything looked like Jim Lee, if every DC comic book looked like Jim Lee drew it, the majority of people who buy those comics would not. They'd be stoked about it. And it used to be, I remember when I'm really good friends with Erica Henderson, who I think is just one of the best illustrators, one of the best comic creators out there. and dudes are, well, she's on Squirrel Girl too, which got a lot of hate just for being, she's a female artist or whatever. But they're like too cartoony, and I'm like, it's great though. And I remember people saying that about Joe Quinones, too cartoony, and Chris Somney. And Chris Somney is arguably the best guy doing it right now. And like too cartoony. And like what is wrong with you people? But now we get Hayden Sherman's really good. Yeah, Hayden Sherman's really good. Kind of cartoony though. You guys don't mind anymore? Like, no, we don't. I guess it's fine. I'm like, what about why am I blanking on the absolute Batman guy? He's so good. Um, like that's insane that you guys love that, but it's good. You should love it. So it's like
Yeah.
it's this interesting thing. It's like movie comes and manga is like it's interesting because if you look at manga, like manga is like has a very similar aesthetic like across the board, and that is very generalizing, and it's not entirely true. But I think if you just flash pages, if we went like this, I'd be like, tell me when you see one that's different, when you know it's a different artist. You know what I mean? Um, and people are like, oh, some like people they go, oh no, these are all different, and maybe American comics look the same to you know what I mean to Eastern readers. Did they all look the same? Um, but like I think big two comics, those people would have been happier if everything looked exactly the same. But now we're in a spot where it's like, no, the more the merrier. Like let's mix it up. Uh, and that's amazing. Like I'm so stoked about that because I that's what I like about comics is there's so many different ways to do it, and they're all good. Like I love Dan Cloud. Like I love Peter Baggy. Like Peter. Like listen, if you don't enjoy Peter Baggy, you're not out here having fun. And if you like Peter Baggy is really good, no, he's not really good, but he's really fun. And you know what I mean? Like what's happening, and it's cool. Uh, Hating on Chris Samney. Anyone who ever said a bad word about Chris Samney should have to take a 2-month break from comics. Chris Samney, he's the best. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I don't know, like I agree with your point too. Like I don't think that they're as far as just like art and design and everything, I don't think that there's like a wrong way to do comics if it makes sense for what you're doing, you know? Like it
Mm-hmm.
kind of reminds me of there's a Todd McFarlane thing when he's talking about drawing monsters and he's like, there's not a wrong way to draw a monster. You just want it to be like ugly, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
He knows a thing or two about making comics. That's a fact.
Yeah, so you mentioned Peacemaker, and as I was reading that, one, it is kind of like a perfect sort of lead in before I read End of Life. Because I think that my whole like pitch to people when I've talked to them about either of those books is that if you like the Peacemaker TV show, you're gonna like the Peacemaker comic because I think that you and Steve really captured the tone and spirit of the show really well. And I think that End of Life has a similar tone and spirit, which I think just goes back to what you were saying earlier about it being like toxic masculinity dummy who, is kind of trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, when again, I say humbly, I say objectively. I think it's perfect casting. I just think when I no. So here's how I got Peacemaker: is someone I knew tweeted, "Why isn't there a Peacemaker TV show and why isn't Kyle Starks doing it?" And I was just having a great time watching the. I don't think about Big Two. I never have because I think it's unfair for me to come up with say a Hank Pym story and I can never use it.
Yeah.
Like that's it's a waste. A waste of my time isn't right, but it's heartbreaking for me to have come up with the perfect Hank Pym story. I have like 3 pitches out right now that will probably never be made for DC. Right, it kills me because they're all good. Like
Yeah.
I put time in to make sure that they're good. So I never thought about these guys, but as soon as that guy tweeted it, I'm like, oh no, like I could do that. Like, so I tweeted, I was like, I retweeted him and I put, ha ha ha, DC call me. Someone called me in an hour, which is crazy to me. And I know that there were some other editorial friends who maybe were like, you guys should, this guy showed interest in Peacemaker. And I think they were at a point where they're like, we want to do Peacemaker. What do we do? Like, who's the people? And I'm sure I wasn't the only one asked, though. I've never heard anyone else say I was as a part of it. But they're like, are you? I'm like, yeah, yeah, I can do that. Like easy. Like that's what I do. Like that's what Sexcastle is. In many ways, that's what Rock Candy Mountain is. There's always sort of a guy like him. I did a book called Six Sidekicks with Trigger Key, and there's a guy named Terry Komodo who's that's him. Like it's this. They're these big dummies who love violence, but they're people. Like they're also like people, and I think that's fascinating. Like I love Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, but like Commando, he has a daughter. That means he was
Yeah.
married once. That means someone loved him. That means he went on dates. Like I love that, and we see just this moment. But I love them being these full people. So I love the idea of thinking about that guy going Christmas shopping for his daughter. Anyway, um, and
Like on the
so
on the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, just to like jump into like, I think we have kind of like a similar taste in humor where one of my all-time favorite jokes in an action movie that makes me laugh no matter how many times I see it is Twins when he's carrying the briefcase and the guy tries to steal it from him and he swings around and like throws the guy off of his scooter onto the ground. And this other guy that runs up, who's like, the partner of the guy who's trying to steal the briefcase from him, he's like, why'd you do that to him? And I was just like, I did nothing. The pavement was his enemy.
yeah, dude, Schwarzenegger is so funny, and I anyone who was like, oh, I think maybe this Stallone movie is better. I'm like, no, it's not. I don't care which one it is. Like, I just love it. Like, as like he's this larger than life character who is infallible, but is also like not above making a pun joke. He's dead tired. You know what I mean? Like, I love it though. I can't. He does some bit when he drops. Oh, uh, he's like, I thought you were gonna kill me last. He's like, I lied. And he drops him anyway. I love that because it's like it's these really violent, serious movies, and it's like it's a palate cleanser, but also it makes the whatever the next emotion is bigger than what it would normally be because you pivot around, which is what I really like to do. Um, because I think that's what life, I think it feels like life, and it makes these characters charming, and the more charming they are, the more time we want to spend with them. So yeah, so they were like, it was funny because they're like, well, what do you think? Like, what do you think Peacemaker should be? And I'm like, it should be as close to the TV as you will allow. Like the TV show is what people like. No one cared about this guy before. I'm like, here's my pitch. They're like, we love it. And so like, here's three artists. Which artist do you think would be the right artist? One was extremely cartoony because it's funny. And I was like, it can't be him. If we do a cartoony Peacemaker, no one will buy it because they'll think it's a joke. They'll just think we're doing jokes. And the second guy was good, but kind of nondescript and maybe a little cartoony too. And I was like, he's just not quite good enough, maybe. You know what I mean? And they showed me CPU, and I don't know CPU by name, which is crazy because I probably read a million CPU things. In fact, I know I read Flintstones for sure, right?
Yeah.
And they sent his Harley pages out. Like they didn't send Flintstones, they didn't send. And I go, that looks like a superhero comic. That's what we want. The closer it looks like a superhero comic, the better. Little did I know, because of the pages that they sent, is that Steve Pugh is basically the modern Kevin McGuire and his ability to emote and to have reaction shots and to make the joke funny but not be hammy. His reaction shots are so good and his choices are so strong. And I think we're just two similar creators. I've now done 16 issues of comics with him. I've never given him a note. That's not me doing a bit. He sends finished inks. He doesn't send pencils. And I've never given him a note. I've never been like, oh man, that's not. When I said bomb, it's never happened where
Yeah.
I've like that he drew the wrong gun or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, he
Um,
can even make a
he,
brain emote.
dude, he's unbelievable. And for this book, well, Peacemaker too. I mean, Peacemaker too. Like, I remember there's a scene, I think in issue 3, where Peacemaker is crying at a bar, and it is John Cena crying. And I don't know if I've ever seen John Cena cry like in a. I watch wrestling like every week. I
Yeah.
don't know if I've ever seen that dude cry before. That dude drew that dude crying. It's not like he's someone who's like there's a scene you could reference for sure. Having reactions like, especially the way that I write, which is a lot of here's this crazy situation, and then there's someone going, "What the fuck?" If you don't get the what the fuck exactly right, it's not as funny as it could be, right? And he nails it every time. His character design always good. I have reached a point where maybe I make up one extra character for him to design that doesn't need to be in the story, just because I want to see what he does because they're always great. Um, Richard Smiley, you see more of his gang in issue 6, and there's like these two like albino weirdo twin. Like it's just like all of them are great. What they wear, they're all wearing Wrong Dog merch because of their Wrong Dog. You know what I mean? Like that's the only
Yeah.
clothes that they get because that's free clothes. Presumably, it's free clothes. And there's one dude he gave like a knockoff Wrong Dog, which was not in the script, and I never noticed it because like there's so much. Like I'm just making sure the stuff's right. But I was going through to do my lettering pass, and I realized. Do you remember like when the Simpsons would have like it's like Bart Simpson, but it wasn't Bart Simpson. It'd be like Bort Simpson, and he's got like who knows, like he has dark hair. But so he did like a knockoff Wrong Dog thing, which is so funny to me. So he does little stuff like that that's very funny. That's just additive. But it's a very fine line in humor in comics, especially before you cross into gag territory. And like I don't want to do gag strips. This isn't Mad Magazine. I
Yeah.
did do Mad Magazine though. I did do that. I was on that. But we're not doing Mad Magazine. Like it needs to be funny, like watching, and not like a sitcom, like watching like an hour long TV show, and you're like, that's pretty funny. That's what you want. You want to be amusing and charming, because if it's a bunch of jokes, then jokes aren't always funny to everybody. But I think funny situations are always funny, and how people react to them is always funny. And he's so good at those reaction shots and character design. There's at least three characters that I was like, I don't know how I'm going to use this character again, but I get to figure it out if it's ongoing, right? So it's planting a seed, and the character he drew is so perfect. I'm like, why did I need to figure out something for that character. So Big Cock was kind of the first big test. Obviously he passed.
Yeah. I still need to figure out where to find like the right like chicken head because I want to cosplay Big Cock at like a con at some point.
Yeah, because I think there's another character that has a chicken head in a suit from like a video game or something. I think yeah, it's a very fine line, right?
Yeah.
He like we talked like
Well, if you go
at
too
one
big, you're
point.
in like gobbledygooker territory too.
Yeah, I think you want to go too big though. I think you want to go too big. It's funny, we had a conversation like, and it wasn't like a real conversation. This is the great thing about Steve. Like his choices are just so good. Where I was like, they all have these masks. Um, they probably should be uniform, but they don't have to be. Like I don't care. Like if it's cooler for this character to have a different, and so like he's made that choice. Like those are his masks. Like he designed, and they are uniform. Like they're kind of edgy, but they look metallic, but they don't. I don't know. Like it's cool. Like those are his choices, man. And they look cool. I thought when Big Cock's head being so big is hilarious. Like I never would have thought of that because he's so big. Like he's so big, giant
Yeah.
chicken head. He's just walking around with it on too.
Like also like how does he see out of the like the
I
eyes
think
on it?
he sees
Because they're
the.
both
I think
all
he
he
sees
has
through
is
the.
peripheral vision.
I think he sees through the mouth. Maybe I don't know. I'd have to look at the art. I
Yeah.
think a cool thing about Steve is like he's not worried about that. Like who cares? Does he even need to see? Maybe he senses his way like a ninja. I don't know. He's big. He's Big Cock, man. Who can unravel the mysteries of Big Cock? Really, it's tough to say. It's tough to
Yeah.
say who has the skills for that.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Wrestle Heist, and I think you said that that just wrapped up. Tell me about that, because like I saw that at your booth at C2E2, and I've been meaning to check that out as well, because I'm also a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, we're hoping the trade is because issue one sold out. So that's it's such a pain. Like, so you could if you were like, oh, I want to check it out, and you're not at my table, you can't find issue one. Like, it doesn't. You can read it on Hoopla. Wrestle Heist is. I love it when the title says what it is. It's about wrestlers doing a heist. If I'm talking to a wrestler, my pitch is it's basically if after the Montreal Screwjob, Brett decided to rob WrestleMania. Um, this guy, the main character Sterling Steele, is wronged by a promoter. He's near paralyzed, injured. He can't wrestle anymore. So this guy's the worst. He's the worst. He's every bad wrestling promoter ever. And so he's like, I'm going to get together a bunch of like-minded wrestlers, and we're going to rob the biggest show of the year. And that's it. And it's very much a character story. I love wrestling, but I also love heists. Either one of those, or if you think comics should be fun, I think comics should be fun, which doesn't mean funny. It just means we should have a good time reading them. I think I nailed it. And the general response to the few people who did get to read it, um, is that I did. I think the trade's going to do really well. I think it's the type of thing that, in my mind, like if you have friends, I think comics and wrestling are so close to each other. Um, Wrestling, comics, and horror movies, I think, all exist in the same space. I can't imagine not enjoying all of them to some extent.
Yeah,
But if you, I think my sincere hope is for people who know people who like wrestling who don't read comics that they go, this you should check this out, or they get it for them as a gift. I think it's that kind of fun thing, where it's a very wrestling fan friendly story that isn't about wrestling matches. You know what I mean? If they like
yeah,
heels or if they like glow, um, it's that type of. I love wrestling, and if someone to me was like, do a power bomb is a perfect example, or even Hell's a Squared Circle, which was Chris Condon, years ago. If someone's like, oh, there's a really good wrestling blank out, I check it out. Like I like that thing, which means I'll probably like this thing too. And for whatever reason, it didn't happen. It's too close to Christmas. I don't know. Who's to say why? I think the trade will do really well. We're hoping because I think I made something again. Everything I did this year, End of Life, Wrestle Heist, Devil on My Shoulder, are perfect. not maybe not perfect, but they're exactly what I want them to be. And there are three completely different flavors of Kyle Starks. Devil on My Shoulder is a very, very dark, bloody revenge, but it's a tight 4 issues. Um, it's scary. It's super violent. It's super violent. It's dark, but it's also like it's a great revenge story. And I think they're so cathartic. I love a
Yeah.
great revenge story. So they're all very different. I think Wrestle Heist is one of the things where it's like, oh, well, I think hopefully people go, I like heists. I'll check it out. No, I think if they see wrestle on it, if they don't think they like wrestling, they're just like, we're out. But I can say on like my Patreons, the number of people have been like, I don't like wrestling at all. I really enjoyed it. I'm like, yeah, because you don't need to know any of these things, right? You don't need to know anything about wrestling. Like if a guy's telling a good story, it's like, are these characters interesting? Do I want to spend time with them? Do I want to see them pull off a heist? It's really those three things. And I think it's yes, but you have to read any of the, you know what I mean? You have to read it to feel that way. And why would you read it unless someone suggests it to you, which goes back to word of mouth. Boy, we're fixated on it. We're fixated on word of mouth. Yeah, I love it, dude. It just wrapped up. Um, because dude, I did so much work on it because the last time I did an image book was Rock Candy Mountain, which was 27 series. The last time I did an image, I wrote and drew it. I wrote and drew, lettered, designed. I did everything but colored it. I literally did all of it, which is what I did for Rock Candy Mountain, which was Eisner nominated. Sexcastle, I did everything for with black and white. Eisner nominated. And then I did a book called Old Head for Image. So those are my 4 image books. And then I had a book called Karate Prom, which is about a karate prom that came out from First Second a couple of years ago, which I did again everything but colored. And I like doing it. Like I don't get to draw enough. I got to do that Mad Magazine thing. I got to do this Wolfman thing a few years. Like DC has been pretty cool. They let me do a cover for Peacemaker, where I think they know it. I'm doing the strips for End of Life. Like I'm doing the canceled cartoonist strips, the Wrong Dog strips in the back, where they know I like to draw and it makes me happy, and so they kind of throw some things at me. So we do love that. We do love that. I when they asked me to do that Mad Magazine, they asked me to draw it. I was like, why would you? Like anyone could draw it. Like you don't need me to draw it. And but Chip's cool. Chip's cool. He's all right. Um, so yeah, something I like doing. I don't remember the point I had to set up for why. Oh, so one of the things like so in the back, there's all this back matter because I love back matter, and I think if you buy a single issue, you should be rewarded in some way for not trade waiting, right? Um, and so I have like these fake top fives. Like it's basically a 70s wrestling magazine. Like it's a vintage 70s wrestling magazine. And there's like an article that's tells you about one of the characters, there's a pinup. But I also did all these little ads, right? Like there's an ad for like these guys are trying to sell wrestling rings because they over ordered wrestling rings. Well, that ad changes in every issue because they keep getting more wrestling rings. There's a guy who's like, do you want to learn how to fight? He's like, then meet me in this alley behind the adult bookstore. That ad changes every issue, and people have not. I know they haven't because I said to them like, no, I didn't notice. So like that guy who's trying to find an article, that's 5 issues of story that guy goes through. Because I have all these vintage. I don't have a bunch, but I have like a stack of vintage wrestling magazines. They're like, we'll pay money for. There's a guy like, we'll pay cash for like wrestler photos. But in my book, it's like a guy will pay cash. He's like, I will pay cash for women's wrestling photos. He's like, I'm not a pervert though. I'm not a pervert. Well, that guy has a story that goes through the whole thing. So there's all these little ads that have stories that go through, or if it's like
Because
how
there
to
used to
you
be
should
like
be
those
tall.
pages in the actual wrestling
Yes.
magazines where it was like you would have also before WWE started selling replica belts, it would be like guys that were selling replica belts out of
Yep. Are
like,
they tape
their own company.
traders?
Yeah.
Yeah, like tape traders. So
Yeah.
that's what I think. So I redid all these, and apparently the ceiling for my design skills is 70s wrestling magazine, which isn't great, but it's great for Wrestle Heist. So I did all this work that probably wasn't even noticed. There's a top five that changes every issue. Because of the nature of those ads, I can't put them in the trade because I'd have 4 pages of space between each book, and I don't want that because I want it to be like this, right?
Yeah.
So I lost a bunch of those ads for the trade, and instead I made a new 6 issue comic that's only in the trade or my Patreon. But it's so like there's an advantage to buying the 5 issues and a reason to buy the trades. There's more design stuff in there. And it's like, oh well, like that's added value. It's also a ton of work, but like added value, added value, added value, which I think is really interesting. And I think as an industry, we'll probably start leaning into a little bit is like how can we make it beneficial to buy both the trades, both the issues and the trades. But it's a lot. It's a ton of work. But it's very interesting. We did a book on Six Sidekicks, and my creative partner at the time was one of my best friends. He's my best friend, Chris Schweitzer, who colored Old Head, Rock Candy Mountain, Variety Farm. He's colored most of my works, and he did Mars Attacks. He did Six Sidekicks with me, which is like a Hollywood. It's like a Hollywood mystery found family thing. And he was like, we have to do back matter. And he was so into it. So we were doing like, one was like an oral biography because it's each sidekick was on a different show. So we're doing like an oral biography of this show. We're doing a Rolling Stone interview. Like we did all this different stuff, and it's like what a waste which is what it should be. For Rock Candy Mountain, I had all these essays and like art and like cool stuff about hobos. Because it's a hobo kung fu epic, and it's like it's gone though. Like the whole point is that it only exists in those issues. That's the whole point. Like you should buy these issues, because they're gonna have stuff that's not in the trade. Now for the six sidekicks though, Skybound put it all in there, and like, it feels like a prestige. Like it feels prestigious because it has everything in there, including we did a short story for Skybound X that's in there too. Which why would awesome. So I'm torn because on one hand I do kind of like when it's all there, but I think you should have to wait for it. So like
Yeah.
Rock Candy Mountain, the trades, the first when it came out in volume one, volume two, which it never should have. That's not here nor there. There's no extras, right? But when they did the collected edition, it's all in there. So that's different, right? Like there should be a benefit for waiting or a benefit for supporting. And if you have one and two, well, here's another reason to buy the collection, which I don't love. I don't want to buy four versions of the same thing, but I think there should be an incentive rather than just don't you love Rock Candy Mountain? You know what I mean? So yeah, for Wrestle Heist, I did a ton of work. So I think those single issues are great. Issue one sold out, you can't get it. It's gone. You can only get it from me. I'm the only one who has any of them. That's probably not true, but supposedly it's true. They are on Hoopla. I do recommend Hoopla because if you like Hoopla, if I did a good job and you read it on Hoopla for free, if I did a good job, you want to buy the trade, and I think that's true, and I think that's a good book. I think Wrestle Heist is a lot of fun. Um, of those three books, if you like End of Life, like I'd say Wrestle Heist first. Devil on the Shoulder is I really hope it's a sort of best horror series of 2026. I just think it's really good. It's exactly the book I wanted to make, which is so rare. And Peter did such a good job. Um, Peter Kowalski, who did Where Monsters Lie, which is another book I'm incredibly proud of. We love Where Monsters Lie. We think it's a timeless classic that no one read. Well, that did pretty good. I shouldn't say that. Where Monsters Lie did pretty good for me. Uh, but yeah, we make books. Anyway, I don't remember what the point was any of that, but we got there. I know I got to the point, but then I
Yeah.
kept going.
No,
I
like
kept
I
going
got
past
like
it.
three more things I need to check out of all of
Mm.
that. So uh I'm like definitely gonna
Yeah,
check out
listen,
Wrestle Heist, definitely gonna check out Devil on My Shoulder. So
yeah, if
yeah.
you like if you tripped and like you're like, oh, I kind of like wrestling, especially like if someone's like, I love uh 80 late 80s, early 90s wrestling. It's set in modern times, but it's like you'll recognize those characters, but you don't have to recognize the characters because I wrote the story for my mother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want my mother to read Where Monsters Lie it's the same. It's a lot of horror tropes. And the reason why it's horror tropes and the reason why it's wrestling tropes or archetypes or what do you want to say is because I only get five issues. I only get four issues. I need you to care about these characters immediately. And if you go, oh, that character is like Michael Myers. Oh, that character is like, um, I'm trying to think, Terrifier. That's not a good one, but you're like, oh, I know who that's supposed to be. I know if it's not them. As you read it, you're like, oh no, that's not them. But I know that character's backstory. You know what I mean? I know
Yeah.
how there's a like a lady with her living ventriloquist dummy. It's like, oh, you like it's Chucky and his girlfriend. Like, yeah, you get it, but it's not them. But you know, like something happened that now there's something evil in that doll, and it's maybe fucking that girl. You know what I mean? Like that's all you need to know. Uh, but I only get four issues, so it's like with four issues and five issues, especially that's how comics are now. It's like I need people to care immediately. So there are these archetypes. And I think if you go, oh, I love slasher horror movies. Man, if you read slasher horror movies and you haven't read Monsters Lie, like I think you messed up because I think that's a really fun book. And I think if you like slasher movies, you like it. I feel the same about Wrestle Heist. But I also feel about that if you like heist, because there's not a lot of heist comics. Um, I can only think of one off the top of my head, and it's French.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. So it's like that's the same. It's like, well, surely everyone on Earth either likes wrestling or heists, and they would check it, and they
Yeah.
would check it out. And if you don't like wrestling, they're like, we're not into it. I'm like, that's crazy because I love a heist. I love a good heist,
Dude, there was
and that's what
actually
we did.
there was a WWE game in the mid 2000s, WrestleMania 19 on GameCube, and the story mode of that game was basically Stephanie uh hiring whichever wrestler you chose to essentially like ruin WrestleMania that year because she was mad at her dad. And the whole game is you playing as this wrestler, like scaling this like building and like construction area outside of it and whatnot, and just tossing security guards over the edge.
I
It's
love it.
it's perfect if you're playing as like Kane or the Undertaker because obviously like in character they would be just like chucking security guards off the side of a building to get to Vince. But it's essentially like her. hiring a wrestler to steal WrestleMania that year.
I love that stuff, man.
Yeah.
I like there's stories that could be told, and all there's so many bad wrestling comics. That's the other thing is like it's just like comedy. That WWE comic was awful. Like, can you imagine if that was if you never read Two of Powerbomb's unique and
Yeah.
perfect, but if you love wrestling, like that's a good I think for people who don't love wrestling, it's just Daniel Ward Johnson's so good. They're like, man, if I can't imagine being a wrestling fan and never having read Do a Powerbomb, which now you can't even read it. It's sold out. I think it's coming out in black and white soon, which is cool. But like, don't you like wrestling? Did you see Glow? Like, surely you all saw Glow. Glow was great. Surely you saw Heels. Like, that wasn't wrestling matches. It's not like those are good. And I say again, humbly, objectively, which is my catchphrase. I think it's if you like wrestling, you'll love it. Like, it's a lot of fun. Um, if you love horror movies, I think Where Monsters Lie. I think I Hate This Place are really good. If you like, this thing, I try to do the same thing. I do it twice, basically. I do everything twice, and the second time, I hope I get it right. Uh, sort of. And then there's sort of Kyle Stark's comics, which is End of Life, Peacemaker, Rock Candy Mountain, Sexcastle, Pine and Merrimack, maybe. I'd have to look at my stuff. Kill Them All. Um, you can see like there's a through line for those of like, oh, it's an action movie, and there's characters that have shit going on. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
there's kind of a through line, but like I'm kind of at the peak of my powers right now. I feel like because they have three books come out and they're exactly the way you want them to be, and they're completely different. Um, like that's hard. Like, and it wasn't hard. Like that's the crazy part. Those are all super easy. Like they're super easy to do because they were thought out and everything just fell into place exactly. And the artist was great. That always helps. I mean, I was the artist on one of them, so it's only fine. But if I had someone good, that book would have done better probably. But I drew it. It is what it is. I like drawing, so we're going to do it for a while.
Yeah.
Ant-Man comics, we love them. I got a bunch, man. I think like that's the hope is like is you really hope and with Peacemaker, the Rock Candy Mountain started selling so well that Image was like, "Would you like to do a collector's edition?" I was like, "Of course." And I think the reason why that is because that's what stores had. Because they're like, "Oh, I like Peacemaker. Do you have anything?" And like, "Oh, we have another book by him." And they just like that's the book they had, right? So I think they're like, "Oh, well, now we have to replace that book because we finally sold it like 5, 6 years later or whatever." Um, and so that's the hope is you go, oh, I hope people read in your life and they're like, oh, I like this guy. There's not other things like him, which I think is generally true, which is true of Dennis Camp. I think of me, and I think of Condon too, though Condon is maybe closer to mainstream in general. Maybe I don't know. He's got the Brubaker energy. I think Brubaker is closer to mainstream than I am. And they go, oh yeah, we have whatever this is. You know what I mean? Like we have these other books. That's what the hope is. Because I have a bunch of. I don't think I put out a bad one yet, man. I say that sincerely. I could rank them and there would be some at the bottom. But I think they're still pretty good. Even the ones at the bottom, I think they're still pretty good.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Well, I've had you for like an hour and a half now. Don't want to take up your whole
Oh
evening. So, is there anything else that you want to put out there before we sign off here?
no, man, I don't have anything going on but End of Life right now. So check out End of Life, and as I've repeated ad nauseum, if you like it, check out something else. If you like it, tell someone that you liked it. I just think that we should be stoked about things that are good, and I think we mostly are. But I need people to be stoked about Kyle Stark's comics because it was a rough year, and we would like to make some money, and we'd like for people to read our books. Like I made a lot of good books.
Yeah. Thanks again for taking the time to chat tonight.
Of course, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
More of you, more of you, more